In the heart of a transport company that has become her second home, Jessica Morris finds herself facing the opportunity of a lifetime, to buy the company where she has worked for decades. But, at the crucial moment, a mysterious note from the secretary arouses deep doubts. Torn between loyalty, family memories, and distrust, Jessica discovers that not every opportunity is what it seems. What is behind that enigmatic warning, and how far will her prudence take her? Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is the Linda's Stories channel. I hope you enjoy this story. The bell rang, announcing the entrance of yet another customer at the transport company where she had worked for 2 decades. The strong coffee smell permeated the environment, a comforting blend mingling with the aroma of freshly printed papers and the faint odour of new tyres coming from the warehouse next door. Jessica Morris looked up from the spreadsheet she was analysing and smiled politely. She had known that customer for years, another of the relationships she maintained meticulously, as she did with all aspects of her work. "Just a moment, Mr. Anthony. I am finishing adjusting your route," she said, returning to the spreadsheet on the computer. Her fingers danced over the keyboard with the confidence of someone who knew each key like the back of her own hand. Jessica, at 42 years old, bore the marks of experience on her face. Small expression lines framed her attentive brown eyes, silent witnesses to the countless hours dedicated to the company. Her hair, once completely black, now displayed silver strands she didn't mind showing. Each one represented a battle won, a challenge overcome. It had been exactly 20 years since she had crossed that door for the first time, freshly graduated in business administration and encouraged by her father, August Morris, who had worked there for 3 decades as an operations manager. The small photo of him in the corner of the desk was her personal amulet, a man with an easy smile and an honest gaze, wearing the company uniform with the same pride a general shows off his medals. "Ready, Mr. Anthony. Your delivery will be made tomorrow at 9 a.m. as requested," she confirmed, handing the receipt to the satisfied customer. As the man left, Jessica allowed herself a moment to observe the bustling office. It was a typical Monday, phones ringing, delivery people coming and going, the constant noise of printers churning out forms. This was her world. Every cog in that operation passed through her hands at some point. "Jessica, have you already made the adjustment for the northeastern route?" "We have that urgent delivery for the hospital," asked Carlos, one of the oldest drivers. "Yes, it's already in the system. I emailed it to you 10 minutes ago," she replied without needing to consult any notes. That's how it worked. Nothing escaped her methodical organisation. In the last 5 years, she hadn't even taken a vacation. When her father suddenly passed away from a heart attack in the owner's office during a meeting, Jessica immersed herself even more in work, as if every minute dedicated to the transport company was a tribute to his memory. Simon Draper, the owner of the company, was a man in his 70s, of average height, with a face marked by a permanently calculating expression. There was something in his gaze that always left Jessica slightly uncomfortable, as if he was constantly assessing the people around him, measuring their worth. That afternoon, while arranging the delivery reports for the week, Jessica received a call from Simon's secretary. "Mr. Draper would like to see you in his office immediately," informed Meredith, the secretary, in a tone that revealed no emotion. Jessica adjusted her navy blue blazer, the same one she had bought on sale 3 years ago, and headed to her boss's office, mentally reviewing all ongoing projects, trying to anticipate the reason for the summons. Simon's office was a contrast with the rest of the company. While the main offices were functional and simple, his space was decorated with expensive furniture, a bookshelf filled with books that seemed never to have been opened, and a privileged view of the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Jessica, please, have a seat," said Simon, gesturing to the leather chair in front of his imposing, solid wood desk. There was something different about his behaviour today. The usual air of superiority was there, but it was mixed with an anxiety he tried to disguise by drumming his fingers on the table. "You know, I've been in this business for almost 50 years, he began, running his hand through his perfectly combed grey hair. "I started from scratch, built all of this, and now, well, I'm thinking about retiring." Jessica nodded, surprised by the revelation. Simon had never mentioned retirement before. In fact, he always seemed determined to stay in charge until the very last possible day. "None of my children have any interest in this business. They live their lives far from here, concerned only with the inheritance they will receive one day," he continued, with a slight tone of bitterness in his voice. "I don't want this place to fall into the hands of some unknown investor who doesn't understand the soul of this company." Jessica felt her heart race. Where was this conversation going? "Your father and I were friends, you know. Few know this, but I had proposed a partnership to him." Simon paused, his gaze wandering to the portrait of a younger man on the wall, probably himself decades ago. "August died before we could finalize the arrangements. A good man, your father, too honest for his own good sometimes." The mention of her father made Jessica feel that familiar pain, a void that had never been completely filled since his sudden death. "And now, Jessica, I want to offer you what I couldn't complete with your father." Simon leaned forward, his eyes fixed on hers. "I want you to buy the company." The proposal struck Jessica like a bolt of lightning. Buy the company? She, who could barely manage to finish paying off the mortgage on her small apartment. "Mr. Simon, it would be amazing, but I can't invest. I don't have any savings for something of this magnitude," she replied, feeling a mix of honor and frustration. A calculated smile appeared on Simon's lips as he opened a folder and slid a document across the table. "I've already thought about that. Here is a monthly payment plan. You can take over the company immediately and pay me over the next few years." Jessica took the paper with slightly trembling hands. The figures were surprisingly affordable, almost too low for a company of that size. Something didn't seem right. As she examined the document, the door opened and a man in a suit entered without knocking. "Ah, Mr. Renan, punctual as always," said Simon, unable to hide his satisfaction. "Jessica, this is my lawyer. He has brought all the necessary documents for us to finalize the deal today." The lawyer, a middle-aged man with a professional smile and cold eyes, placed a bulky folder on the table. "It is an excellent deal, Miss Morris," he commented, opening the folder and revealing a stack of contracts. "I can assure you that Mr. Draper is being extremely generous. I have rarely seen such favorable conditions in a transaction of this magnitude." Something in the lawyer's tone triggered an internal alarm in Jessica. It was the same tone used by used car salesmen when they wanted to quickly get rid of a problematic vehicle. "All this is rather unexpected. I need to think, Mr. Simon. Give me until the end of the afternoon to review the proposal," said Jessica, trying to buy some time. Simon's expression changed subtly. The cordial smile gave way to a stiffness in his jaw, and his eyes narrowed slightly. "Jessica, opportunities like this do not come around twice in a lifetime. If you don't decide now, I will have to offer it to someone else. I have interested parties waiting for my response." "Even so, I need a few hours to think," she insisted, standing up. "It is a decision that will completely change my life." Simon exchanged a quick glance with the lawyer before reluctantly nodding. "By the end of the day, then. Not a minute more," he conceded, his voice carrying a note of poorly disguised irritation. Jessica left the room feeling oddly dizzy. 20 years of dedicated work culminating in this moment, the opportunity to own the company she loved. It was almost too perfect to be true. As she walked down the hall towards her desk, Meredith, Simon's secretary, approached discreetly. A reserved woman in her 50s, always impeccably dressed and with a neutral expression that rarely revealed what she was thinking. "Jessica," she called in a low voice, extending a small folded piece of paper. Confused, Jessica took the note and opened it. Written in careful handwriting were just a few words. "Not today. Wait until tomorrow." When Jessica looked up, intrigued, she met the intense gaze of Meredith, an expression she had never seen on the usually composed face of the secretary. It was a look of urgency, almost of pleading. Without saying anything more, the woman quickly returned to her desk, as if the brief encounter had never happened. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of thoughts. Jessica tried to concentrate on work, But the enigmatic note and Simon's unexpected offer dominated her mind. Why wait until tomorrow? What did Meredith know that she didn't? She mentally revisited every detail of her conversation with Simon. The unusual haste, the suspiciously favourable conditions, the convenient presence of the lawyer. And there was something more. Something between the lines when Simon mentioned her father. As if there was an untold story there. As the workday came to an end, the employees began to say their goodbyes and leave the office. Jessica remained at her desk, Meredith's note hidden in her pocket like a secret talisman. Finally, gathering courage, she returned to Simon's office. She found him seated in his armchair with the lawyer beside him, both with anxious expressions. "So, Jessica?" Simon asked, pushing the stack of documents toward her. "Ready to become the new owner of the transportation company?" Jessica took a deep breath before responding. "Mr. Simon, after careful consideration, I've decided that I need more time. I would like to review these documents at my own pace, and perhaps consult a lawyer I trust." Simon's face transformed. The mask of cordiality fell away completely, revealing an expression Jessica had never seen before, a mixture of anger and fear. "More time?" His voice rose an octave. "There is no more time. Either you sign now, or the deal is off." "In that case, I'm sorry, but I will have to decline," Jessica replied, surprising herself with her own firmness. Simon stood up abruptly, his face flushed with fury. "You don't deserve the deal I'm offering. You're as cowardly as your father," he snarled. He hesitated too when he should have acted, and look what happened to him. Those words hit Jessica like a punch. What was Simon insinuating about her father's death? Without waiting for more, she turned on her heel and left the room, her hands trembling and heart pounding in her chest. On her way out, she passed by Meredith, who just nodded subtly, as if confirming that Jessica had made the right choice. The next morning, Jessica arrived at work earlier than usual, her sleep having been disturbed by nightmares involving her father and Simon. The office was still quiet, with only a few employees having arrived. It was when she heard the noise, doors being forcefully opened, loud and authoritative voices. Seconds later, several men and women in formal attire entered the office, followed by uniformed police officers. "Federal Police, where can we find Mr. Simon Draper?" asked one of the agents, displaying his identification. The subsequent events unfolded like in a movie. Simon, who had just arrived, was handcuffed in front of all the astonished employees. The charges were serious: systematic tax fraud, falsification of invoices, tax evasion, and money laundering, a scheme that, according to the investigators, had been going on for years. While the police officers searched Simon's office and the company's computers, Meredith approached Jessica, who was watching everything in a state of shock. "For months, I have been collaborating with the authorities," the secretary revealed in a low voice. "Simon found out that the investigation was closing in. His plan was to transfer the company to your name, with backdated documents. If you had signed those papers yesterday, you would now be implicated in all his crimes." The pieces began to fall into place in Jessica's mind. The unusual haste, the suspiciously favourable conditions, the presence of the lawyer. "And my father?" Jessica asked, fearing the answer. "What does he have to do with this?" Meredith hesitated, weighing her words. "Your father discovered some irregularities in the accounts. He confronted Simon the day—" She paused. "The day of the heart attack. I know the autopsy concluded it was a natural death, but I've always wondered if the stress from that confrontation didn't trigger the attack." Jessica felt her legs weaken. Her father had died trying to do the right thing, and yesterday somehow she had followed in his footsteps even without knowing. In the weeks that followed, as investigators uncovered the extent of Simon's crimes, Jessica was invited by the Board of Creditors to temporarily take over the management of the transportation company. Her experience and integrity were valuable to keep the company running while the legal process unfolded. 6 months later, with the help of a bank loan and support from investors who recognized her worth, Jessica finally managed to legitimately buy the company where she had dedicated so many years of her life. At the reopening ceremony of the transport company, now renamed Morris Logistics, Jessica inaugurated a small memorial in honor of her father in the main lobby. On the bronze plaque, besides the name and dates, there was a simple inscription: "Honesty may seem like the longer path, but it is the only one worth taking." Next to the memorial, in a discreet frame, was the small note that had changed everything. "Not today. Wait until tomorrow." A constant reminder that sometimes patience and prudence are the greatest virtues we can cultivate. As she watched the employees celebrating the new beginning, Jessica felt a peace she hadn't experienced in years. Her father would be proud. In a world of haste and opportunism, she had chosen to wait. And that wait had saved not only her reputation but her future. In the end, Jessica learned that prudence is not just a virtue, but a true shield against the traps life can present us. Being cautious and attentive, especially when something seems too good to be true, can spare us from irreparable pain and pave the way for legitimate achievements. Just like Jessica, who chose to wait and listen to her intuition, we must always remember that hasty business deals can hide great dangers, and that patience, combined with the courage to question, is what allows us to build a solid and true future. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.